Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. It's a very dark afternoon. The rain clouds are hovering over Kansas City, keeping us nice and cool, but I still have Mr. Fan and AC on. They're a dynamic duo of keeping me pretty well temperature and climate controlled. My brother is, if anybody's listened to the show, you know, my brother is a landscape architect. He pretty much does yard work, and he does lawn care. He designs stuff in people's yards, and he's pretty good at it. He was complaining to me about like how much just money he's lost because of like all the rain, which is sort of unfortunate. You can't run heavy equipment, you know, that saves time when, you know, you're getting stuck in the mud. It's like iron chariots, you know, running through the muddy plains. It doesn't work. Eventually you're stuck. Today's show is way early recorded than normal. On the heels of uploading the previous episode, I'm recording this episode, just mainly because trying to stay on point on looking at our modern age meta and what does that mean as we go forward. So first off, I like to, you know, point out that everything that I'm bringing up right now is just more first glances is after the reset. So if you're coming back and it's a couple of months or heck even, you know, eight months down the road, and you're like, well, Dark Logos Magical Piece X does this, you know, like, hey, it's July. I don't know about Magical Piece X yet. Just a brief reminder at the beginning of the show, I do have t-shirts on sale at TeePublic, and also episode 150 I think is next episode, so send me your AMA questions. Yeah, all right. Let's get into it. What we're going to do this show is we're going to focus on support, future support. What does it look like? Mainly because I feel that a core of what heroclix is now has changed. We already established that plus stats is a lot less in the game just from resources. So now we have a lot more core mechanics back in the figures and not so much with the resources. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be mentioning characters that are high points and low point characters, and I want you to sort of just take them as like, hey, these are options. Okay, these are options for us to think about, things for us to consider. These aren't the, oh my gosh, these are the top meta pieces, but I do think that these pieces have a place in the future landscape of heroclix, okay? Alright, so first off, we're going to be looking at Shuma Gorath. Yes, 200 point Shuma Gorath. His one upfront click of prop. Now you might say, well, Dark Logos, isn't that a little bit unreliable? Normally I would say yes, but Shuma has a nice solid 10 range. He has that nice regen ability built into him, on top of having regen. So there's a lot of things that he can do to get prob. He has prob on his last click, but he's really not losing it. So he's a very solid piece. And as the meta progresses, I can only see Shuma doing a lot more damage, and him doing, you know, buck wild craziness. Next up is White Queen from the pay prize support. White Queen is a bit expensive, but her little stop click shenanigans, people they really do build some interesting things around that. Add in the cuckoo's mechanic, and it can be interesting. I will say this, it's one of those figures for me personally that's more on the edge than anything else. It's just coming up because I know there's a ton of folks that just swear by the piece. All right, let's go on. we haven't gotten all of Age of Ultron storyline OP kit yet, but what we do have, there are two figures in particular that are somewhat useful if we're looking at our meta shifts. Alexis and Protector, and right now, like I said, I'm primarily looking at Prob. Alexis is great, mainly because we're getting a taxi, we're getting precision strike, we're getting energy shield deflection and prob on the first click. She's 3 clicks of prob, then 2 clicks of perplex, and at 65 points, that's not bad considering that some other characters that we have to now consider are around that point value. Yes, she does not have perplex end, prob or prob end outwit, but I think overall that she provides a very solid option for most heroclix teams. Definitely because with phasing taxi, I can't say how much that's underestimated. It can get real silly. Okay. All right, next up, let's go and look at Protector. Protector is not one of the best characters overall, but at 6 clicks deep, sidestep, flight, defend, and invulnerability as a special power, in prob, he's not that bad, but again, like I said, he's not that great. He is what I would believe is going to be one of your more higher point game support figures, like 400, really 500 points and up. I see him actually having a very solid position in the meta. Let's go on to Iron Man from Avengers Assembled. This one, and we're talking about pure 242. He fits in a theme team well, but primarily the main thing that I see right now of him having an advantage, mainly we're going back to that 400 point, 500 point meta, is that we have access to giving friendly characters defend, and if we can get some other high point Avengers, some other Avengers in the squad, like 100 point Ant-Man with 20D. Now he has defend. You don't have to play Phoenix Force. You have other options. So bam, you're in good position. When he gets knocked down to a 19D, yeah, he's now defending a 19D. Overall, just having prob with 5 damage is nice. So he's propping up your team. He is, your main force. At the same time, he is your support, and I think that's what we're looking at. We're looking at this circular, symbiotic interactions, where just because the main attacker is attacking doesn't mean that they can't have support elements. All right, let's move on. I'm going to bring this one up. I initially overlooked it, but I think there is potential here, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Dire Wraith. Dire Wraith is an interesting support piece, mainly because he has 1 click of prob and then goes into perplex and perplex. But the next thing that really comes in is the mystical shapeshifters. Dire Wraith can use shape change once per turn. If the result is 1, you may re-roll your shape change roll. So you have built-in shape change. You have the chance to re-roll it if you roll a 1. So that's pretty good. Then you also have memory leech. Dire Wraith can use precision strike. And this is your trait. This is not a special power. When Dire Wraith KOs an opposing character, place that character on this card. On any click, Dire Wraith can use any standard power that character possesses on that click. So it becomes really interesting because as the game progresses, Dire Wraith potentially, if it's the one taking that last snipe shot, can potentially get more powerful. It's a very high risk situation. But if you just stay with your standard, hey, I'm chilling in the back and I'm just popping, some shots off, or I'm just here to prob, then you're good as well, paying your 55 points. You're not really going to be utilizing the minion ability, really. Next up is Talon from Guardians of the Galaxy. And this is where we start combining that secondary attacker with our support. Charge, Blaze, Claws, Fangs. That's all we're looking at with Prob. The temptation is to save Prob for our Blades role. That's really it. I don't think that that's the best option. I really don't think that's the best option. Next up is 100-point Thanosai, and really, this one is probably one of, I would say it's not a tough sell because we've seen Thanosai pop up in the meta before. I just think where it's really going to come in for most people is just buckling down and saying, all right, Thanosai is doing this for my team, and at 8 range with 2 targets and energy explosion, he is covering your butt. The problem in the 300-point meta is, for most teams, Thanosai is the major attacker. And in the Yellow Lantern Power Battery meta, that 10 attack becomes an 8 real quick. So you got to think about what you're going to need to fix in your lineup. But overall, it's not a bad piece. I think that definitely once you start going into higher point games, like at least 600, he becomes way more powerful as a support figure. Then let's move on to the Deadpool set and Domino. Now, Domino is a interesting figure for specific reasons. Reason number one, she has improved targeting. Improved movement, ignores hindering terrain, improved targeting, ignores hindering terrain. So she has both improved movement and improved targeting. Okay, so she just pretty much flat out ignores hindering terrain for the most important functions of the game. The next thing that you're going to notice is that Domino pretty much acts like the classic Domino from Mutant Mayhem, the Stealth, and Prob with 6 range, but she is also able to reduce down her movement to increase her range. So if we look at her special power on her first 2 clicks, Domino can use Running Shot and Stealth, give Domino a free action when she has no action tokens, and until your next turn, decrease her speed value by any amount and increase her range value by the same. So as long as she's clear, if you just want to make sure, like, okay, I got all these other actions that I need to do, let me take a free action. Let me just go ahead and get rid of this 9 movement, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and just increase my range up to a 17. Now, well, actually, let's take it back. Most likely, folks are going to be like, it's going to be a 9, but most likely, it's sort of weird because the language that they use, it's not clean. But let's just say for right now, let's assume a 9. So you have a 9 square prob. That's really good. We don't have a lot of probs that are that far out unless you're using a sniper rifle. So that's a huge deal. Then let's move on to Bullseye. Now, this is definitely a character that is a no tactics meta staple that might actually come back into tactics. Running Shot, Precision Strike, 3 damage, probability control for 3 clicks. Just high stats since we don't have a lot of 12 attack, and we'll be getting into that in the future, probably the next show as we're looking at the modern age. Definitely start looking at stat values and the importance of those. But the cool thing about this piece is just all the improved targeting that you have, and that you're able to just say, hey, you're in stealth, I see you. Oh, you're over there, I see you. Okay, so there's a lot of great stuff there. Let's keep going. Now, if we go to the Deadpool Fast Forces, a lot of people are like, hey, Mercy is awesome, TK and Prob for 50 points, and 3 clicks deep is very shallow, but we also have access to Barrier, which is another awesome little ability. Now, the main thing that I'm going to say is that we can start to see that if we're looking at Prob, we're on average paying 50 points and up, and this is really the low end. And I haven't gotten to Atomica yet, and I will in a bit. But to have the utility of TK in barrier is nice. Now, alternating barrier being a future element, I can see that being a problem. Definitely, if you want to say like, hey, I have Mercy and I have this other figure, I really want to just make sure I have something secure, in place. So there's things there that can make it very, very interesting. But Mercy, I think really overall her stock as a piece has only gone up. I think that this may be like for no tactics, this definitely will be one of the go-to pieces that are going to be cores of teams. Now, the only way that it's not is that if someone finds out some new ways of breaking Green Lantern tech, then she's in a tougher boat. All right, let's look at AVX Scarlet Witch. And coming in at the 150 and 100, both are actually really strong for the meta right now. The No More Mutants little ability going off, that's great. You get control there. Also, Mystical Ward. Scarlet Witch can use energy shield deflection when Scarlet Witch is hit with an attack. The roll is ignored and the attacker must roll again. This new roll can't be re-rolled or ignored. So this is really great. Precision Strike on the 100-point dial is very useful. The main thing that I would say at 150, yeah, again, you're looking at those 500 points and up games. But really, when we start looking at the 100 dial, she can be viable at 100. Viable in the 300-point modern age meta. Now, what we have seen is we've seen Kenny Pena play Scarlet Witch on the team base and use the No More Mutants and then pop Scarlet Witch back on. So that can be really interesting as well. So will she show up? Most likely as part of a team base, or more likely at 100 points, 150 at your higher point value games. All right, let's wrap up Prob with these last few characters here. Oracle. Oracle is, again, we're back into what am I getting? 49 points. We're getting Flight. We're getting Smoke Cloud. We're getting Barrier. We're getting Prob. She's 6 clicks deep. She's very robust figure. There's a lot to mine out of her in play. She's very cheap, like economically. So you can pick her up if you're looking at new players and trying to help them out. It's like, hey, pick up an Oracle for them. Like, here's a Prob, Taxi, Barrier, Smoke Cloud piece. So definitely one of those interesting pieces that I hope comes back into the meta. Longshot. Longshot is, actually I said wrap up, but I still have DC. I forgot. Longshot has his luckiest man alive trace, which people have utilized to great extent. Him with the sniper rifle, him with the entity to get energy explosion. I mean, I've heard it all. He can do all sorts of cool killer stuff, and 2 clicks of Prob is not that bad. So definitely a piece to consider. Spiral has come back in the meta just for the fact that she interacts well with Jocasta and the Pulse Wave, and just being able to get several other interesting elements together to make her a force. And the fact that she is really deep at 8 clicks for 100 points, at 106 points, that's really good. All right, so the next figure that we're going to look at is probably going to be one of the most divisive figures that I'm going to bring up, because I'm going to make this one claim that this is probably probably the strongest support piece in the meta right now, and that's Batmite. He just is. Batmite has the ability to make somebody is idle and then allow them to potentially do 2 actions in a turn. He also has Prob at 10 range. He also gets Outwit at 10 range. He has the ability to use incapacitate. He has the ability to just be like, boom, you get an action token because I can target you. There's so much with Batmite. You can whore him out for Batman ATA. For his Batman TA. There's nothing in the meta that gives you as much value as Batmite. And since because of rocks, the value of Batmite has dropped. There's a lot more Batmites just in circulating in the meta. So definitely something to think about. All right, next up is Madame Xanadu. And Madame Xanadu is here for a couple of reasons. First off, she has an okay range for her prop. Then she has a 16 defense with super senses. And that defense value is not that high, but unlike all the other support pieces that we've really talked about, she has some sort of way of protecting herself. She has probability control, of course, and TK. She also has Mystic's team ability, which is great for wild card. 81 points is a little bit high. Now, here's the thing. Her trait, it's in the cards. When an opposing character targets Madame Xanadu or an adjacent friendly character with the Justice League Dark keyword with an attack, you may choose a number between 1 and 6 after actions resolve. Those characters heal 1. Click for each die in the final attack roll showing the chosen number. So it's like, oh, you would have done damage to me, but I heal. Yay. So that's pretty good. Next up is Fast Force's Mirror Master. 75 points, phasing, teleport, incapacitate, probability control. He gets super senses, and while he's adjacent to blocking terrain, his super senses succeeds on a dice roll of 4 through 6, which is really nice. He also has the trait traveling through the mirror dimension. Mirror Master can use the carry ability and may carry up to 5 friendly characters regardless of their speed symbols if they share a keyword with him. Oh my oogly moogly, if I just, go ahead and give them a construct or an entity, he now has keywords that he didn't have before. Ooh. If Mirror Master begins his move adjacent to a square blocking terrain or a wall, his speed value isn't modified by the carry ability. So again, phasing plus Suicide Squad. For those who don't know how strong that can be, oh gosh, get hit by an energy explosion that can wipe out your team and just start popping off your Suicide Squad people, and it's like, oh yeah, that was nothing. I'm still in the game. All right, next up is the Doctor. Again, he's coming in at that cheap point value. He's giving us running shot, which is nice because he's one of the few low point figures that actually allows us to get in some movement. Problem is that he has a very low range. It comes in at 5. Psychic Blast allows his little damage to go through, but we also have Barrier, which is great. Next up is Jack Hawksmoor. This one, a lot of people will contest me on because a lot of people will say like he's just overcosted. The only thing you're going to be killing is blind owls, and that truthfully, I can see. But he has the ability early game to use that TK super senses. He has stealth. He's also able to go up multiple elevations, just being in the right position. There are certain maps that just benefit him more. Is he better suited for an Authority or Stormwatch team? Yes, but I really do think he does have potential. I know Dan, I ended up talking to Dan Joins, and he was like, nah, this piece isn't going anywhere. All right, next up, Sister Cersei. Sister Cersei, I feel, is the second most powerful support piece. Because by herself, and you're going to be like, well, what about the Blue Lantern recruit? No. Okay, Sister Cersei starts off, and she gives us a perplex, so we can perplex up our stat. She gives us TK. She has willpower, so she can TK somebody out and then move into position the next turn without taking pushing damage. And prob. That is a lot. That is a whole lot. Then, if she takes a little bit of damage, she gets support, and when an adjacent friendly character misses with an attack roll, Sister Cersei can use support as a free action this turn, but only to target that character. So you get a free heal, and then you can heal that same character again. So it's like, oh, I have a low attack because I'm almost dead. Let me make this pointless attack. All right, I'm going to free move heal. Boom, I rolled. Now I'm going to normal heal. Boom. Because it's not an attack, there is no healing negative damage modifier thing at all. Okay, so just think about that. Next up is Brother Worth, and Brother Worth is great because while his attack values aren't the best, with coming in at 10, having charge, flight, and probability control, having a lot of damage reduction is great. I'm just going to say it. It's great. He has perplex up front, so you can make him 11 attack. But here's the cool thing: when Brother Worth uses his perplex only to increase combat values, when he does, the target character modifies his defense value by +1 against close combat attacks. So if you have like a charging in team, a very melee heavy team, this is probably one of the best supports for you to pick. Of course, there's always Entity and Adara, but we're not going to go into that. You already know how good that is. I'm putting in a bet in for Tellus to return to the meta and do some interesting stuff. I know that Tellus is limited to Legion of Superhero, and there's not a ton of Legions of Superheroes, at least not cheap enough to like really make a solid 300 point team. And we already know at higher points he is just dumb on what he can do. But what I'm more so looking at with Tellus is the fact that he is wild cardable. Okay, so if you are able to get like a Green Lantern TA in there, there's a beast there. But also just being able to have mind control, to again have alternating prob on your dials, to get that defend at the end. That's a lot of goodness. There's a lot of positives, very few cons with that setup. Okay. All right, so Atomica, you're just going to play it. I mean, 25 points for CSA. You're going to play it. Another character, Egghead from Batman 66. He is really great in the meta just because you get Outwit, you get Perplex. You just have to move him to get crack tokens. And then it's like, okay, crack tokens are great because it gives me prop. So it's like, oh, I move. All right, now I get prop. All right, cool. All right, so now we've looked at prop. The thing that I really want you to see is this. A majority of the figures that I'm picking out are sub 100. And there aren't a lot of characters over 100 that I've picked out for you. And there's only 2 characters that are in that 200 point plus range. Which is very interesting because it points us into, one solid truth. Is that Prob is still, definitely on your first click, is primarily seen as a supportive figure power. It's not seen as something that you usually put on a high attack power figure. And I know there are anomalies, but on average, you're not putting Prob on a high attack figure. And most importantly, when we are looking at Prob, our range values aren't super high. So I'm just going to run down the ranges real quick because I got everything like stacked up. So 10, 6, 4, 6, 7, 3, 8, 6, 8, 7, 8, 6, 5, 6, 10, 6, 6, 5, 0, but it's going to be a 6. But anyway, 6, 5, 8, 10, 5. Okay, so look at that. Just look at that. I said a few 8s, I said a few 10s, but it's mainly 6. We're mainly getting 6 range for prop. So what does this mean for your engages? This means that your engagements, either put your probber in a very dangerous situation since they have to be close to prob, or if you do have a long range probber, that you're going to be investing a lot of points unless you're investing in Batmite, which has a 10 range. And that's why I said Batmite is the strongest probbing support in the meta. Period. As of now. Because nothing matches his range, his utility, and his control, all in that one piece. Can you kill Batmite really hard and really fast? Yeah. But you still have to get to him and invest that. And he has the chance of just saying, okay, I'm in safety and I might be able to see you, but you will most likely not be able to get to me. All right. So we're at 30 minutes. So I'm sleepy because I've eaten too much white flour. Nan bread is delicious, but oh man, it is not healthy for you. All right, so we're going to take a brief break, go to the lobby and get us our some caffeine, and then we'll head back into the show. So let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby and grab ourselves a caffeinated beverage. I'm not sponsored by anyone, so I don't have to say anyone. All right, so now we're back. Had a brief caffeinated beverage. We're going to look at Perplex now, and Perplex is a really scary thing right now in the meta. And the main reason I say that is that when it comes to cheap options, we really don't have a lot. Most of our options are high points, and the ones that are low points, they are few and far between. Now, some people might say that's a great thing that the meta forces us to actually look at base stats, but the main issue when you start looking at base stats is base stats always limit your pool. That's why with no tactics, you always see a lot more of like certain figures, because either power selection, combination wise, or just pure stats are just so good that they can't be patched otherwise. So for all those who said the game was best when and the most diverse when there were no resources or relics, I would say you don't know what you're talking about. Enjoyable now and then as a format, but it definitely wasn't the best stages of the game. All right, so here's our first sort of, for a lack of a better word, setback. We're not looking at anything good until we hit Avengers Assemble Jarvis. And Jarvis is 40 points. He allows you to bring in 3 Avengers ID cards for free. And as it stands right now, he's the best cheap perplexer in the game. Free move, free move. If he's next to another Avengers, he reduces all the damage he takes down to 1. So if he gets hit by Psychic Blast, then yeah, he's sort of out. Not only that, stealth, slow movement, but overall really good. Other bonuses, he allows allows a friendly team mates to ignore hindering terrain for Linus fire and for movement in indoor terrain. So it's really good. He's the best perplexer that you're going to get on the cheap. The problem is you can't stack him. Like, you can't stack 2 or 3 of him. Now, people who play back in Infinity Challenge will be like, yeah, I remember back in my day, I used to get a perplex for like 12 points. Yeah, and that's the thing, is we don't really have anything along those lines, which makes the blue battery a lot better if you think about it. That you're just paying the cost of a construct to get perplex. All right, let's move on down to Scarlet Witch from Avengers Age of Ultron movie set. And she gives us Perplex, but she also has the ability to give Scarlet Witch a free action when she has 2 or more action tokens, and choose a friendly character within range and line of fire. Modify the chosen character's combat values by +1 until the end of the turn. So it doesn't carry over. over. And at the end of the turn, deal Scarlet Witch 1 unavoidable damage. And don't clear her action tokens. If the chosen character's name is Hulk, you may modify the chosen combat values by +2. Now, this is great for Hulk, but really, overall, on average, this is going to be. This can be really interesting. It can be abused if we're starting to look at things like, oh, okay, I'm playing a Blue Lantern battery plus this, plus I'm perplexing up stats, plus I'm giving you a +1. Oh, guess what? I put a DAR on you. Now you get another +1 from the battery. Now I'm at a position where this character that was meh or okay with 11 attack now has like a 13 attack, and had initially, maybe 3 damage, now has 5 damage, because I can still use that perplex on top of everything else. So it's a really good piece. The only issue is that you're going to face burnout. Like, that figure is going to die really fast. So you have to pick your moments. At an 8 range, you can keep her relatively safe, but it's risky. All right. Next up is the Target exclusive Black Widow. She's just good. Control, Avengers Initiative, stealth, the ability to potentially do 2 in-cap attacks, willpower. She's just good. You just play her. That's just how it goes. Her Avengers Assemble trait, it's just good. All right. And I know a lot of you might be saying, like, well, all right, so what's next? Well, there's not that much. We have Spider-Man from Avengers versus X-Men, and he's only good because he's an Avenger TA, so he can move without costing you against your action total if you really need him to support, but he comes in at 100 points. He also has Precision Strike. He has improved movement, ignores elevated terrain, ignores hindering terrain, and ignores outdoor blocking terrain. And he ignores characters. And then he has whatever a spider can, is when Spider-Man is targeted by ranged combat attack, he can use super senses, but evades on 4 through 6. So his survivability is there. His support nature is there. I just hate to say it. We're talking about upfront perplex. He's going to be fronting a lot of the weight of your team. And if he gets hit, he's most likely dead. All right. Next up is Hope Summers. Hope Summers is interesting because she fills this weird role in the meta. 6 clicks deep. She has perplex starting off. Once she hits her second click, she gets into her special power, allows her to start copying powers and stuff, which is great. It is wonderful. The problem really just comes down to what sort of consistent combination of things are you going to do with her. And at 75 points, she doesn't provide a taxi. She doesn't provide any other additional effects. That's a huge problem. All right. Now, I did miss this one. And this one is a little bit of a interesting sort of conundrum, because we have 56-point Jubilee. And I know she's not the cheapest, and she's not necessarily the best attacker, but she comes in and she does some interesting stuff. She gives her fireworks show. Jubilee can use energy explosion when she does. In addition to normal effects, each hit character must either be given a action token or modify their attack value by -2 until the end of the turn. So you get a little bit of control there. So it's not the greatest, but you also have the X-Men TA for wildcard abuse. All right, we're going into DC. DC is showing us how much of a drought that we actually have in the support area. So first up is Huntress, World's Finest. We have Batman TA, which is great. Also, she she doesn't get to use the Kryptonian Scientist keyword, but that's all right. Daughter of the Batman, World's Finest, can use Running Shot and improved movement. Ignores elevated terrain, ignores hindering terrain, ignores characters. So she can get to where she needs to go. Add that in with an Indomitable Psychic Blast at 10 attack. She's a very solid piece. World's Finest Huntress is a very solid piece. 5 clicks deep. Again, you're stuck into that secondary attacker role. All right, let's look at the next piece, and that's going to be Pied Piper. Mind Control, Willpower, Wildcard Ability, Perplex, 75 points. And this is Pied Piper from the Fast Forces. You have the Rats trait. Give Pied Piper a power action and place 2 Rat Bystander tokens as described on this card into an adjacent square. If no friendly Rats Bystander tokens are on the map, this is a free action. So Pied Piper can generate rats, and lots of them. So just real briefly, we're going to go and we're going to look at the rats, and it won't show me the rat pog. Huh. That's strange. Let's try this again. Okay, here we go. Rat Pog, Charge, Battle Fury, Tiny, which it sort of sucks because it can't be carried. When adjacent to a friendly character named Rat or Piper, Rat can use Exploit Weakness. It's a special power. So the rats are really not that good. Okay. They have their uses, mind you, but they're really not overall that good, other than for dying and healing up your team. Using Suicide Squad. Alright. Okay. Next up, we have Weather Wizard. Now, Weather Wizard is 100 points, but he provides a lot of attack ability and cool stuff on the field. Running shot, energy shield, deflection is great. The power is like the seasons. I've talked about it before, saying like just how great that is and how much I enjoy that power in the game. Now, the main issue that comes in with Weather Wizard is, do you really want to front him as one of your secondary attackers or even your main attackers? And that's a whole different story. All right, there's Proselyte, of course, at 25 points, but most of the time if you're using Proselyte, you're going to be using Super Strength for the first power. And again, we're back to looking at Egghead once again. So the problem with Perplex now, more so than ever, is WizKids is not just saying, okay, we are going to give you a ton of cheap Perplex options. They are forcing us to come back and say Perplex is at a premium because of retirement. Now, there could be some cheap Perplex figures in the future, but really, when all said and done, we're back at Proselyte at 25 points and Jarvis at 40 points. And everything else is at a premium. And even World's Finest Huntress is a really good deal, but she has to pull her weight as an attacker. And I mean, Scarlet Witch is great, but again, she's easily killed. So we're in this interesting position, definitely when it comes to Perplex. The game is not making it friendly at this point in time. So what that means is that RCE, CCE, enhancement in power, Hydra TA, Police TA, Shield TA, anything that allows you to get a stat pump is more powerful now than before. And that is a big deal. And I don't think a lot of people have realized that yet, unless they've done the research. So the research elements of that is what we're looking at now. Let's go ahead and look at Outwit. And I think my search function is sort of crapped out. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Outwit. All right, now when we're looking at Outwit, it's quite interesting because we have a little bit more, I would say, diversity to an extent, or a lot more support from WizKids with our current modern age. So let's look into it. The first character that we're looking at Outwit is Scarlet Witch, the prize support Scarlet Witch, coming in at 75 points. If you don't know what she does, then definitely check her out. The California, really the West Coast meta is dominated by this one figure. It's probably like worth the cost of your firstborn child, and even maybe even parts of your secondborn child. Uh, it has a lot of control elements just built into the figure, so definitely something to look at. The next one that we're going to look at in depth is Agent Coulson. I normally don't do previews because by the time you listen to my show, you've listened to 15 other HeroClix podcasts, and they've talked about it to death. But Coulson is a huge game changer for placement, and here's why. First off, we get our outwit, we get our running shot, which is nice. He has the ability to do a power action and choose another friendly character of equal or lesser points that shares a keyword with him and has no action tokens. Place that character adjacent to Agent Coulson. So as long as they share a keyword with him, which is Avengers and Shields, and their lesser points, he can just be like, boom, come over here. This allows you to bring in a fair number of other support pieces or even shield agents to make one giant attack go off, or even some massive defense. If there's other ways, and then you can also do this. You can give him construct, of course, and increase his keywords. So there's a lot to do there, and I know a 50-point limitation stops you from teleporting in, a huge, destructive guy, but really, you have to look at it from a support standpoint. That if he's able to bring in a lot of support for really, really cheap, that's really good. All right, next up is Giant Man number 44 from Age of Ultron storyline OP kit. This Giant Man has sidestep, special power attack, and outwit. He has the stand tall next to the Hulk and Thor. If another friendly character with the Avengers keyword and damage value of 4 or more hits an opposing character, Giant Man may make a close combat attack as a free action this turn. So, just sort of being in position to get a free nice punch in is really great. Growing personal problems. Is his special power. Giant Man can use Quake with a lock value of 3. When he does, after action is resolved, destroy all objects, walls, and blocking terrain within 2 squares. This also includes friendly blocking terrain, friendly objects, also objects that are held, because it doesn't make it specific. So everything. So that can be great or that can suck. Depending on how it goes, but a Quake with a lock 3 value is pretty good. Next up, we're going to be looking at Ant-Man at 50 points. He's giving us from the same set, number 205E. He's going to be from that Ant-Man box set, and the more I play with it, the more I see the value of that box set. At first, I was like, man, forget it, Ant-Man, he sucks. But after playing with several mechanics, including the ants this last weekend, they're really good. I had some tech involved that I won't be bringing out until I can go Golden Age again, and the ants and Cypher are going to be wonderful pals. They're going to be wonderful pals. But I ended up making copies of my ants, so I have 12 ants. Giant ants in the ant swarms, and I would recommend if you get the box set, you do the same. But going back to Ant-Man number 205E, having sidestep, poison, 4 movement is not that great. Super senses, tiny size, and outwit is really good. Just make sure you get that poison go through. Okay, we're going to go on down the line. Next up is the Mr. Game Changer himself, Mr. Justin Zephyrid. And Justin Zephyrid, stealth, the ability to make robots do crazy things that they shouldn't be able to do, and outwit with super senses. He's not that deep, but just pure support is for 40 points. He's some of the cheapest outwit that you're going to get into the meta right now. Even if you do not need his robot function, if you just need outwit, he's probably one of your lowest options that you're going to be going to. All right, let's go ahead and move on to another interesting piece that's there in the meta is Dr. Minerva Prime. Really got overlooked in Guardians of the Galaxy. Those 2 clicks of outwit up front, charge, 4 range, indomitable, super strength, 3 solid damage, can really, be a really good attacker on your team. Dr. Minerva moves on to her later part of her dial. She gets perplexed. She can use it normally, or when she targets a character with the Kree keyword, she may modify any combat value except damage by +2. So there's some elements of control and buffing there, which sadly she can't work with the Captain Marvel Prime because I don't think they thought that through. All right, so let's just keep going. We have Doctor Doom, the zombie from that set. Running shot, pulse wave, outwit, minions of Doom, team ability. Just overall, really good figure. Is there more that could be done? Yeah, but overall, it's not that bad. Then we have Recorder number 211, which is really great. Phasing, outwit, so you always can get into position. 70 points, a little bit higher points than normally I would like to spend. Then you have Analyzer. Recorder 211 can use outwit. When he does, you may choose a generic keyword and either generic keyword and either speed, attack, or defense. Counter the power in that chosen slot on each opposing character with that generic keyword. So this is definitely useful during generic keyword teams. Also with the robot keyword, he has some other specific advantages. Now, this figure, I haven't heard too much conversation on him, and I think we might actually start moving towards folks looking at him, and that's Korath the Pursuer from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie set. And the main reason I say we're probably going to have more conversations about him is he's 50 points of outwit. He can fly and taxi. He has a 10 attack, 16 defense toughness. He's 3 click speed. But the end cap, the range is not that great either. And so that's probably part of the reason. But having charge, end cap, 2 damage with outwit, that's really nice for a taxi. Kree keyword, minions of Thanos keyword, Kree keyword, scientist keyword. Also from that same set is the Rocket Raccoon from the starter or Fast Forces. Stealth, improved targeting, ignores hindering terrain, ignores characters for your outwit. That's great. Willpower, tiny size. And just the ability that he can make 2 range combat attacks as a free action for 75 points. Pump him up with any sort of number of stat mods and you have a monster. So I really like that Rocket Raccoon, and I think that he is a figure for the future of the meta. He's 5 clicks deep, which is relatively respectful, and he's easy to fit on just about any team. All right, let's keep on moving on. Next up is the Sentinel from the Days of Futures Past. Same sort of thing as Korath. He's 75 points. He's a giant. He flies. He's indomitable, which is another great advantage. Mutant Hunter. When Sentinel targets a character possessing the Brotherhood of Mutants keyword or X-Men team ability or keywords, modify its attack and damage value by +1 for the attack. You're not really ever using that. Then you have Activate Inhibitor Collar. Sentinel can use Pulse Wave. When it does, hit characters are also given action tokens. So that's nice in and of itself. Then we have Senator Robert Kelly, and Senator Robert Kelly pretty much says, hey, you have that keyword over there. Yeah, none of you all get to use will ignore pushing damage until I'm KO'd, and then you'll heal 1 damage. But he is able to get your outwit early on and get your control. The only problem is that he is very fragile, very, very fragile. So most of the time he's in the back, and at 42 points, that's really good. All right. Next up is Armanzola, and Armanzola allows you to play a lot of characters with the same keyword and do a whole lot of, same name and do a whole lot of shenanigans. He's able to generate Gwen Stacy Pogs, which gives you Perplex, and he also has Outwit and Pulse Wave on his first 2 clicks. I overall like Armanzola because I feel like there's a world of abuse there with triple target friendly mind control. But I know that many other people I've dealt with have just decided, like, yeah, that's okay. I don't need to do that. But this is just one of my more personal preferences, if anything. Okay, so next up is the Invincible Iron Man, common Iron Man. The ability to pretty much outwit through walls is insane. I'm sort of surprised that figure fell off. Definitely at 150. I don't see why. It's just really good. All right, then you have Justin Hammer, and Justin Hammer comes in with 54 points for Outwit for 2 clicks, then Perplex for 2 clicks. And he's only really good for Hammer Industries keyword. He has I know all the players. Characters with armor, Hammer Industries, or robot keyword may be targeted by Justin Hammer's Outwit or Perplex if they are within 10 squares, regardless of line of fire. Now, with a lot of Jocasta coming back into the meta, this Justin Hammer might actually be really useful, just to sort of rein a little bit of that in. It's all above board and legal. Now, hold up real quick. Well, I'll leave that alone because I was going to point out something about the Outwit, but that's okay. It's all above the board and legal. Justin Hammer can use Mastermind. He can use it to transfer damage to characters of 150 points or less if they're within 3 squares, have the armor, Hammer Industries, or robot keyword. So that's pretty cool as well. Then there's Tony Stark, and this is the mind control extremist Tony Stark, and he has a place. I just feel like other figures have done it better than him. He's definitely a figure for higher point games. Definitely higher point games. And he might actually make some of your round table summoning a lot more interesting. Definitely if you have the robot keyword. And if you're able to like judo flip him onto click 2 to make him do what he do. Alright, so let's keep going on. This figure here is probably the one that's like obvious, but this one is, I think we're going to see more Phantom X, just because Eva gives you Outwit and it just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. I think because of that, it creates a huge problem in the meta, just mainly because if we're not seeing a drought of Outwit, but if we have a major attacker that's always able to bring in a heavy outwitter and you can't get rid of it and you're not scoring any points, then yeah, there's definitely some problems there. Okay. Next up is DEO Agent at 56 points. Main reason for consideration is upfront damage reduction plus police team ability. Outwit on the first click and sidestep, so you have a good amount of mobility. You also rotate to perplex and support, then back to perplex, and then finally support, which allows you to have a more well rounded support figure. You also have the trait Safety in Numbers when DEO Agent is adjacent to a friendly character with the police keyword or team ability. Both characters can use stealth. So there's a lot of survivability in the figure. Next up is number 210, Lex Luthor. He has Stealth, Psychic Blast, Outwit, and a special power. This is a job for Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor can use Mastermind. He can use it to transfer damage to friendly characters named Bizarro within 3 squares, regardless of point cost, which that's not bad. Doing what needs to be done. Give Lex Luthor a power action and KO an adjacent friendly character of at least 50 points. Okay? When he does, and as long as Lex Luthor is on the map, friendly characters can use willpower. Now, there's things that you can do with that which I don't like, but you can. And is he the best piece in the meta? No, he's not. But I do find it interesting that, like, he potentially, if he's on your opponent's team, if you have multiple target mind control, yeah, that's just bad, because he can just be like, I'm just going to doing what needs to be done, and that's your action, and then that figure gets KO'd. Now all your friendly characters get willpower. That character's KO'd, and so it's like, oh, well, crap. You're stuck, and I don't even know how actions would resolve, because technically that character was given a mind control action. So does it need to still resolve anyway? But just the fact that you're able to do that and score some cheap, easy points, it's beyond silly. But I don't know if we'll see a resurgence of him in the meta. Next up is the green shelled one that we all love to hate, Turtle. Turtle is a problem, because part of me says Turtle still is viable for Outwit, coming in at 50 points, but the tempo control of Turtle has to be so specifically built around it is insane. So I can't really just say, like, yeah, this is the best. Then we have Harley Quinn at 65 points, being able to have pretty much access to Outwit and Perplex for a single character, friendly character, and then Perplex and Prop for a single character, and then having Outwit. Gives you a well-rounded support piece with a wild card ability. Now, the next thing that we're really looking at is, as time progresses, will Harley Quinn come back into the mainstream meta? Because she sort of was there during No Tactics, and during Tactics she sort of fell off. So we don't quite know yet. All right. Of course, you can't talk about Outwit without Ion being in the conversation and granting 2 powers to your friendlies. So yeah, that's interesting. But also out of War of Light, there is Ron Vidar, and Ron Vidar gives you high mobility and a lot of other options. He is able to bring in a construct, so you also can have a TK option or a wall option. He's a wild card, so you're able to bring in any number of TAs to help your team out. He has the ability to reset the board with his time cube. So there's a lot of good stuff here. It's just, does he fit within your team that you're building? And that's really the number one question. Next up is Shrinking Violet. She's okay. 75 points. for not really doing that much, but I really do think she's useful if you're looking to go back to a defend bubble while having some other positive options, mainly the outwit option on the table. All right, and I forgot Maria Hill from what's the set? Captain America: Winter Soldier. She's definitely one of the better outwit options in the game, and of course Egghead. And Bruce Wayne from Batman Classic TV. You have 45 points for your outwit. You have the potential to turn into Batman. Then you also have the commissioner called Let's Go. When a friendly character is given a move action after action is resolved, you may give Bruce Wayne a move action as a free action. So he could just like sort of get into place, which is really great. Then sometimes it seems like I'm a professional hostage for ransom. When an opposing character not on his starting click would deal damage to Bruce Wayne with an attack, you may ignore all that damage. If you do, the attacker immediately heals that much damage. So Bruce Wayne allows you to keep a character, just functionally alive, while at the same time just like, well, you're not going to do damage to me, and I'm just, if you're on top click, then you're not going to do much else. So yeah, I won't take damage, and go heal yourself. All right, so here we can start to see as we wrap up the primary support powers, that it's hard out there for a heroclix player. It really is, because if you're trying to get all of your support elements on a team, you're in 300 points. It's just a problem. It's super difficult. Definitely if you're trying to rely on it from a figure standpoint, which also sort of points back to the main reason why resources have become sort of staples inside of the constructed format. And I think it more points out just how WizKids is designing figures, how undercosted the resources are and those powers are when they're not associated with stats. Just flat perplex with no stat associated to it is dirt cheap. Once you add a stat to it, even if that number is 0 or 1, there is a cost assigned to it. So anyway, I really have noticed something else in particular, that Outsiders becomes, just in this format now, as the modern age is, Outsiders becomes one of the most powerful team abilities, right up there with Mystics and Power Cosmic and all that and stuff like that. Because when we start taking away stat modification, it becomes a whole new meta. And we already see with no cheap perplex, then we have major problems. The other thing that I think that also sort of comes out of all of this is that outwit is very prominent in how viable it is, but we also can see an abundance of Superman enemy TA as being useful, definitely with the application of 25-point Bizarro as a sort of like, I think Bizarro comes in with Superman enemy. Yep, 25-point Bizarro, Superman enemy. I think that's also an element that's been very underutilized in our play environment is, hey, guess what? I got a wild card with a long range and a 25-point Bizarro. I functionally have outwit and a crazy level attacker if I need to. So there's that as well. Probability control, I think, is going to be one of the interesting things that as we look back in the game, it's... At this stage, it's probably going to be one of those powers that we're going to be like, daggone it, this is where the rough patch hit. Just for the overall cost and just availability. All right. Again, sorry for last week for the pictures. I just, thanks, Mike. I forgot to edit them in because I was like, all right, I got it done. Let me hurry up and upload the show. So, sorry about that. So I'm going to do a little thanks Mike montage here after I finish recording, but you'll probably see that before this. So, Anyway, so let's get to the dibbly doo in the end. You can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space and told me dancing and donuts are both awesome, but donuts really take away the advantages of dancing. You can find my random musings and other cool stuff there. You can also find out when a new show is up. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. At startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. If you are looking for any sort of paid tutelage or coaching, feel free to email me and I can set it up. And if you're going to do such tutelage, you can donate through the PayPal on the blog, which is startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. You can check out the TeePublic link below and say, hey, get a Starting Over Podcast t-shirt or my Team Phoenix Nest t-shirt. Win, lose, start over. And that's just about it. That's about it. Also, remember, email me your questions for AMA, since episode 150, I think, is next episode. So you have a week to do so. Just let me know, like, whatever you want to ask about, me, life, heroclix, whatever. So, all right. Thank you for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.